Okay, welcome back to solo role-manging Shadowdark, running an axe module that's not particularly well-loved or popular, but just because I needed to counter our axe run-through with a simpler system. So far, still pretty slow, but that's more my problem than Shadowdark's problem. And I have made it as far as I did in Axe. We're at the entrance to the buried temple here. We dispatched all the kobolds. None managed to flee this time, so that was good. And I completely forgot at the end of the last video, because it's so foreign to me these days. But based on my house rules here, I would get XP for dealing with kobolds. Now, again, I didn't have to kill them to get that XP. We could have talked our way past and also gotten XP. But kill them we did. So, it says here they're worth 5 XP. And if we go to this section, you can see anything that's less than 1 hit die is worth 5 base XP, so that is all correct. We killed 4 of them, so that's 20 XP. And I'm pretty sure that's 20 XP to each. It's not like divided by the number of members. Oh no. Okay. Never mind. It is not given immediately at all. The totals for each monster defeated are calculated and added to the value of all XP from treasure, and the sum for all XP is divided evenly among all party members who return to civilization alive or dead. Henchmen receive a half share each. So, no, you don't give XP immediately, and instead you have to keep like a running total of XP, which isn't that big of a deal for treasure because you're going to count that all at the end with what makes it back to civilization. But monsters, that is going to have to be kind of tallied as you go somewhat by the GM. And that wasn't much. That was a very simple little tiny encounter. So 20 XP, we're each going to get 5 out of that, out of the 2,000 we need. So, yeah, not a whole lot to say, but we can continue. All right, so we have a big door here. We're in kobold territory. The more powerful creatures that dwell in the temple are happy to allow the kobolds to be the first creatures to have to fight intruders, and mostly leave the little lizard dogs alone. The kobolds themselves are not enthusiastic about fighting, and typically just charge a small tribute to anyone who seeks to pass through their territory. However, their king is keen to gain the favor of the lady below, and may attack, betray, or even conspire with the adventurers if he deems it likely to win her approval. Wandering monsters appear on a 5 or 6 on a d6 each turn while parties are in this area. So that's one way to do it, is just, you know, you still do an encounter check every turn. Actually, I mean, doing it every turn and it's on a 5 or a 6 is pretty hefty, because Shadowdark is more that you calculate, you think about the danger level of the dungeon, and then that determines how often you do the encounter checks. So, like, an unsafe is every 3 turns, essentially. They call it rounds in Shadowdark because of the always-on initiative. But, yeah, every 3 rounds. And an unsafe location. Risky is every 2 rounds, and then deadly is every round. And it's still a 1 out of 6 on a d6. So yeah, the round concept is a little different. You know, okay. So, yeah, so Shadowdark is not based on turns, which is what the old school system always is. A turn is generally 10 minutes, and pretty much everything is based around turns. Whether you're just walking through the dungeon slowly, carefully, or you're searching a room, or you're resting, or anything like that, it's all based around 10-minute blocks. Whereas in Shadowdark, it emphasizes real-time progression. So every second in the real world is 1 second in game world, because they have the real-time torch timers. But then, you know, I mean, it's a nice thought. The real-time torch timers, it's always a nice thought. But the problem is that it's always the same problem when you try to do one-to-one time progression like that. Of just, that's a big appeal of RPGs, is that many times you don't have to go one-to-one time. And so you're passing by a lot of time in game that's not passing in real time. And it's just like, what's the point? You know, what is the point of real-time tracking? The point of the real-time torch timers is simplification. You're not thinking about how many 10-minute blocks of time you're spending doing anything, or blah, 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 blah. You're not keeping track of, okay, there's like 20 minutes left on this torch now, blah, blah, blah. Now we spend another turn, and that ticks down to 10 minutes. You don't have to calculate all that. You just have a 1-hour timer running. But the problem is that oftentimes you do pass time by just searching a room or something, or, all sorts of stuff that occur in a dungeon where time just passes, not necessarily in real time. And then you have to manually tick down all your timers by a certain amount because of that time that passed in game and not in real life. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've run Shadowdark with real-time torch timers, and it was mostly just like an afterthought, I guess. It was just like, oh, okay, that's cool. I didn't, the book encourages the DM to attack the light a lot, so that you should actually go after their torches and try and plunge them into darkness as much as you can, and blah, 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 to create this kind of survival horror atmosphere and stuff like that. Because the game is not as brutal or lethal as actual old school games. Not quite. And so in order to heighten the tension and things like that, they focus more on the idea of exploring a dangerous location with very limited light sources, and it's very dark and cramped and blah, 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 and anything that can just put out your light and plunge you into darkness is meant to be terrifying, because being in the darkness in Shadowdark is pretty bad. Everything is done with disadvantage and blah, 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 and even relighting your torch is done with disadvantage, and so on and so forth, and it's really bad. I don't know. I'm probably just not DMing it properly, is probably what happened. I'm almost certain that's what happened. But I've heard from other DMs, old school DMs, that just ignore the whole real-time concept entirely and just run it based on 10-minute turns and blah, blah, blah. And obviously the system can handle that just fine. It's not that big of a deal. And, you know, the always on initiative thing, it's like, again, kind of, it works for some groups, doesn't work for other groups. It's not something you want to have necessarily always on. Sometimes, because by the rules, you know, if like the thief sneaks up and goes on their own to sneak and scout out, you have to keep going through initiative, and you keep going back to like the fighter sitting there. And it's like, what do you do? It's like, well, I'm fucking sitting here. You know, it's like we're waiting. So you really, I don't think it's meant to be super strict. It's meant to make sure that everyone at the table has a chance to kind of be in the spotlight if they choose so. Yeah, they have that opportunity compared to just one player drowning everybody out. I don't know. I think, yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of nice ideas in Shadowdark, but not all of them are going to land with every group, and some of them do require, you know, kind of some effort on the DM side. Anyways, right, so random encounters. Yeah, you can see then that we're not breaking things up into 10-minute blocks. So a round in Shadowdark is the time for everyone to do one action. Or, you know, one sort of activity on their turn in the dungeon. So if one person wants to go to the other side of the room and search for a secret door or something, that would be their activity during their turn. And then once everyone has taken some sort of turn or passed or something, then that's a round. And that's sort of meant to be kind of 10 minutes. It's just abstracted a little bit more. So it's definitely not meant, you know, this is not the kind of game that tracks like how much characters can move specifically during a game round or something, you know. You don't have an exploration speed or something like that through a dungeon. It's like, okay, well, this turn, this block of 10 minutes, you guys can move 120 feet through the dungeon. Yeah, it's definitely more fluid and abstract than that. And so, but in general, I think what that means is that random encounters in many locations are definitely lighter than in actual old school games. Because even if we make this a deadly location, which there isn't much guidelines for what a dungeon is, and how you calculate whether it's risky or unsafe or deadly. There is, when making up a new dungeon, you roll on a d6. And if you get a 6, it's deadly. If you get a 4 or 5, it's risky. If you get 1 to 3, it's unsafe. So it sounds like the majority of dungeons are going to be unsafe. Which means that you're only rolling for a random encounter check every 3 rounds. So I don't think random encounters are meant to be a massive aspect of dungeon crawling, except in the most dangerous of dungeons. And here, in this module, we have it every turn, and it's on a 5 or a 6 while you're in the kobold territory. Which means a lot of random encounters. I mean, those are going to come up all the time. Especially based on axe and their exploration speed. I mean, if you look at this corridor here, number 2, and these are 10-foot squares, so it's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120. To get from this door to the end of the corridor is a turn for most parties, 120 feet of exploration. And so at the end of that turn, you'd roll the random encounter check and have a 33% chance of bumping into a pack of 3d6 giant rats or something, you know? It's like, yeah, I mean, it's very oppressive in the olden times. Whereas Shadowdark seems a bit more concerned with, like, just actually going through the dungeon and the rooms in the dungeon and stuff. So, yeah, hard to say. Because it's like, you keep, you move like one step forward, you bump into 3d6 giant rats, and then you run away and move 2 steps back. You know, it's kind of that sort of thing. It's a very oppressive location that does not want you here. And that's quite evident. So, yeah, just differences to note. Not saying one way is better than the other, of course. But I would say, in general, I'd probably lean towards Shadowdark in that aspect. I think random encounters can be interesting once in a while. But I mean, just looking at the random encounter, the wandering monster tables here for the first level of this temple, and it's like, this place is incredibly populated, you know? I think in these old school kind of games, you're kind of meant to consider the exact population of the dungeon, because it can be cleaned out. So you kind of should have a general number for all the populace, and you know that, okay, this dungeon features 20 giant rats spread throughout the whole first level. And so if they end up killing 20 giant rats, then there's no more giant rats. Logical, realistic. You know, outside of actual rooms or something like that, there's, 10 orcs, or there's 10 kobolds wandering around, and there's 5 gnolls wandering around, stuff like that. But anyways, I guess let's begin. So we're gonna crack open the doors. Bronze doors, the heavy bronze doors here the kobolds were guarding. Clearly there's beastmen here, because kobolds are beastmen. And I'm pretty sure this whole place is dark? I don't really talk about illumination at all or anything. It does talk about replacing lost members each week, as long as the lady below and the stone remain intact. Unless you completely wipe out a tribe or group or kill their leaders. Yeah, interesting. But yeah, I don't see much talk here. I mean, we're looking into the Great Hall here. It's a 20-foot wide hallway running 270 feet wide west to east, forming a main artery between the kobold, brigands, and orcs. The north wall of the Great Hall is surfaced with stucco and decorated with a magnificent series of sequential fresco paintings. Now, the brigands can't see in the dark or anything like that, so they're going to be, their areas are gonna be illuminated, but any of the beastmen and stuff probably just in the dark, I would imagine. And the image here shows it to be quite dark. So area 2 starts at number 14. Which is gonna be here. And then I imagine 3 is probably 19, the orcs. 20, actually, is the orc territory. Here. This is where we start getting into orc territory. So if we go east, that's probably gonna be illuminated, I would imagine. Yeah, unlike the other denizens of the temple, brigands do not have infravision, so they keep the areas they control well lit. The brigands will happily induct the NPC. Okay, yeah, we're reading ahead. But yes, so that's lit. All right. So we open this door into just darkness. So Wisteria is going to cast light on Pelorin's shield. We will cast that. It is a success, 23. So we are lit. And now we are lit for 10 rounds of time. And keeping that light spell was lit 60 minutes remaining. So this module obviously is going to keep track of our light timer in real time. I don't know where they're displaying that information or anything like that, but yeah, I guess. Probably it's like on your token or something if I drop Pelorin on there. Well, he is lit up. Light spell used. 60 minutes remaining. Okay. Toggle light source. Yep. I don't see a torch timer anywhere, but we assume that we have a torch timer. Yeah, so we're not really using the map to move along, but it is kind of nice if you want to set it up for that, and you have the whole map put in here with walls and everything. Then, you know, you can play, you have your tokens, they can move through the dungeon, and they have their lights that are on 60-minute timers and stuff automatically. It makes it pretty foolproof. Alright, so we see the frescoes now that were lit up. First one is a cracked and broken fresco of human slaves led by a lean brown-skinned man with a very long head, rising up against their lizard man masters. Second is of 3 slender, dark-haired, brown-skinned kings, with accoutrements of a warrior, a mage, and a priest. Third is of several red canals flowing into a temple above which an incomplete broken figure sits. And the fourth is a fresco of impaled prisoners languishing in agony while demons and Zaharans dance in the rain of their blood. And then we can go west or east. Or north. There is this northern door right here. Usually in these types of situations, I tend to just go in numerical order because it's easy to flip through the book then. So I guess we'll go west, all things considered equal. Now again, like I said, if we were running axe rules and everything, we would now roll a random encounter check, and on a 5 or a 6, we'd roll a random encounter, and it would be fucking devastating, most likely. Not necessarily. I mean, many of these are not necessarily going to just attack you, but plenty of them are. The giant rats for sure are. The sturges for sure are. Most of the others, though, are used to seeing humans in the area. So there's a decent chance of a reaction roll occurring there. For Shadowdark, yeah, we really wouldn't. I mean, unless we want to make this place deadly, which we could. But I mean, just like hypothetically, say we followed axe rules here and we rolled and we got a 5. And we rolled and we got, I mean, let's make it dangerous and say we got sturges. And then we rolled d10 and it's 5, 6, 5. Say 5. And we, and they immediately attack upon detecting us. Okay, so it's 5 Sturges. They each have 12 AC. They have, 1 asterisk hit die. I'm not quite sure what that means. Possibly they can, like, drain your blood to get more? I don't know. Let me see if Sturges are in... yeah, they're called Sting Bats here, but it's pretty much a Sturge. They have 4 HP in here, 12 AC. They attack for +2, dealing 1d4 damage, and blood drain. They attach to the target and auto hit on the next round. You have to make a DC 9 strength check on your turn to remove them. Doesn't really say if it's an action to do so or not, but doesn't sound like it. Doesn't sound like it, but I feel like most would kind of rule that it is an action to remove the Sturge. Because if it was a grab, I mean, certainly an escape is some sort of action or movement. Maybe it's a movement to allow it to be a movement. I guess maybe I'd do that. Right. So you'd have 5 of those. They'd all reasonably die, maybe in 1 hit. Pops probably not from magic missile or anything, but yeah, the melee dudes and stuff. And 12 AC is not spectacularly high. But they also do +2 on their attacks, D4 damage. That's pretty bad. That's very easy to drop lone. Paloran probably can survive 1 hit. Wisteria can probably survive 1 hit. Harvest probably surviving 1 hit. So, yeah, I mean, I guess it would be dangerous, but if you rolled a 10 on the D10 Sturges, then it's like, okay, we have to just fucking run. I don't know, it's... That's the point, I guess, right? That's the whole concept of going into a dangerous location, is that this can happen. So I guess in the interest of fairness, we'll make this a deadly location. And I guess one round for us would be going down this hallway to, like, this section. Shadowdark is pretty vague on, you know, how much you can do other than, like, moving within near. And that sounds like moving within near. Actually, we moved a lot more than that. Because near is like 30 feet. And we moved 100 some feet. Which means that, technically we did like 3 turns or so, if you really want to be pedantic about it. In which case, we would make like 3 random encounter checks. But that just seems brutal and so slow and nonsense and just like, fuck that. So we'll stick to slightly closer to axe rules there, where we could move 120 feet when exploring. And the whole point of Shadowdark is to not sweat stuff too much like that. And so if the players say they want to move down the hallway, then you just move them down the hallway. Unless the hallway is like 800 feet long or something, it's just like, yeah, okay. And then do your check, possibly. So let's do that. I won't do the 5 or 6, we'll just do a 6. And I think, actually, isn't it on a 1 in Shadowdark? I feel like that's more appropriate. Because you don't want to roll a 1 ever. Yeah, it's a 1. So we'll just, D6, and if we roll a 1, it's a random encounter. Okay, we're good. So now we have a door to our north, and then further south. Technically, our light I don't think even goes that far, to be honest. So we're like here. That's 10, 20, 30, 40 feet. Yeah, I don't think a torch quite goes that far. But we're not sweating stuff, and it doesn't matter because we're going through this northern door, and it's going to be awesome. Doesn't even say like how bright a torch is in this game. You'd think that a game that's all about like the torch and focusing on the light and in amidst the darkness and stuff would tell you in general. It just says most light sources last for up to an hour of real time and illuminate a limited area. That's what it says. And in the torch section, for a torch, it just says sheds light. Oh, sheds light to a near distance. Okay. So 30 feet. Generally. Okay. So, yeah, we're just gonna listen. We're gonna listen at this door to the north, number 3. So, our thief will roll his wisdom check. And is that a thievery thing? Are you counting that? No. Thievery does not necessarily apply just to dexterity. It doesn't say dexterity anywheres. But most of these are dexterity. Well, finding traps is not dexterity, and applying disguises I don't think is dexterity. But no, listening does not apply here. And it seems pretty clear that it's specifically this list of checks. So no, he does not have advantage on wisdom listening checks. So this is just straight up +1. And he rolled a 16, which, I mean, I don't know what's on the other side, but I would imagine if there's anything there to be heard, we hear it. Kobold Guard Room. 30 feet wide, 20 foot long room is guarded by 6 kobolds. The 2 largest guards are tormenting the smallest one by tossing its money pouch over its head, while the others enjoy the spectacle. The kobolds are considered distracted for the purpose of being snuck up on. If the kobolds hear noise in room 2, they will end their game to investigate. If their morale breaks, the gang will flee to room 4. Okay. So we hear quite a bit. We probably didn't even need to roll. And if I were the DM, I wouldn't have made him roll, because I would have read this section already. But yes, so we definitely hear, their little skittering voices, and it sounds like they're laughing. It sounds like they're doing some sort of game or activity in there, and they're not being too quiet about it. So what's the answer then? Do we just bash in the door? Bash in the door, get them on surprise, and try and butcher a few of them before they can react? It is, if we're gonna do combat, probably the most advantageous way to do the combat. Surprise is pretty big. We can all get it. And we don't have many options for avoiding combat, because we're not a group that, considers talking to these horrible beastmen, and we're here to slaughter them and put a stop to this. So, yeah, I mean, we probably just want to butcher. So I think, just, post up on either side of the door, like Lone and Carvis with his crossbow ready, and Wisteria can kind of Lone here, Carvis here, and then Wisteria here, so she has line of sight as well, but she's further back. And then Pelorin will make a running charge through the door. I imagine the door is not incredibly sturdy. I'm sure it talks about that in somewhere. Doors are made of thick planks of old-growth hardwoods and reinforced with green patinated bronze. Okay. It doesn't sound like they're super weak then. I was going to set it at 9, but no, I think that's more of a DC 12. But with the running start, I am going to give him advantage on his strength check. So this is going to be Pelorin +1 with advantage. Okay, you rolled a 13 and a 3, so you got a 14, and that is enough. So he bashes through the door with his weapon ready, and we have surprise on these 6 kobolds. Again, Axe would have you roll based on their surprise matrix, where we have foreknowledge, they don't, and we both have line of sight on each other. So they would roll, and on a 1 or a 2, they would be surprised. But it also says here that they count as distracted, which I don't even remember from the rulebook. So I'm not sure what that means, other than like a -2 is probably what they meant. I mean, I guess it's not in the 2nd edition, or it's not spelled out the same way in 2nd edition, so I assume they get a -2 on the roll. So pretty much on a 4 or less on a d6, they'd be surprised, which is pretty likely, but not guaranteed. And I think that's kind of weird. So if the players are going to do, make a little setup like this, and you hand me some distracted kobolds playing a game, like, just fucking do surprise. The only problem is if he didn't fail to bash in the door, and then you lose your whole element of surprise. But he did, and had he failed, obviously he would have used his luck token, but we're good. So now combat starts. Initiative doesn't really matter, because we're supposed to re-roll it every round anyways, and they don't get an action this round, so we all just get a free shot on some little bitch-ass kobolds. So we've got 2 big boys that have HP 4. There's a little one that has HP 1, and then 3, 3, 2. So Pelorin's gonna charge in, go for one of the big guys, and just cut off his fucking head with the Chorus of Revelation. That's what's gonna happen right now. Okay, he rolled a 2. So we're going to spend luck token to re-roll that. There you go. So boom. And one-handed damage, we rolled an 8. So definitely just shower of gore and just, viscera spraying across the wall as we cleave this kobold in half with this, deer in the headlights look on his face. And we get our luck token back because of that. Excellent. That's good. That certainly is very surprising, I think, for these little kobolds. Carvis is going to take a shot at one of the 3 health ones, I guess, with his crossbow. Normal roll. Rolled a 19 and did 3 damage. Perfect. Shoots him right through the head. Crossbow bolt slams into the wall amidst all the other viscera, and the kobold drops dead. Lone is also going to rush in and swing her sword at one of the... Yeah, probably one of the big guys, 4 health ones. She rolled a 14, which is a hit, does 6 damage, also cleaves him in half. His guts spill out onto the floor as his top half slumps to the ground next to his bottom half. we're doing pretty well here. Element of Surprise, very strong, very strong. Good rolls, very strong. And then last but not least is Wisteria. She's gonna go after the little 1 health guy, who is just being picked on. He's just a little guy, but he's a little guy that's gonna get fucked with Magic Missile real good. Yep, that is a success. 1d4 damage. Only 1, but that's all she needed. That's why I picked him. Okay, so we killed the 2 big guys, we killed the weakest guy, and 1 of the 3 health guys. Which means that there's still a 3 and a 2 left. And this is probably where you want to roll morale. Because I think we shocked them into panic. I just want to see real quick where Shadowdark suggests rolling. When it suggests rolling morale. You know, whether it's on their turn or at the end of the round. Does it say anywhere any concept of morale somewhere? I know it's in the book somewhere. Kind of hard to find stuff in this book, to be honest. This is why PDFs are nice. I would just do Control F morale and call it. Actually, I have the PDF. What am I doing? It's so much easier, and then you can actually see what I'm looking at. What I should be doing this whole time. I'm just, yeah, so accustomed to books, I guess. Enemies who are reduced to half their numbers or half their hit points for a solo enemy flee if they fail a DC 15 Wisdom check. Yes, that's what that is. Does not ever say when to roll it. So that's just on you. Axe does it at the end of the round. Usually when I play, I do it on their turn. But, I do it on their turn, and then I don't let them run or anything until it's their turn. And so that often leads to them just wanting to flee, but getting butchered before they can. Which I guess is not that bad of a thing. Yeah, I guess it's not that bad of a thing. So it doesn't really matter when you roll it, to be honest, as long as you adhere to them not being able to do anything until it's actually their turn. So I guess we'll roll morale right now. Kobolds are pretty shit in morale, according to Axe. They have a -2. So we will roll that. Technically they'd be yeah, but yeah. Okay, it's fine. We'll just follow Shadowdark rules. So they definitely failed. Absolutely failed. So they are panicking, and they're going to either run or surrender. They're going to run if they can run, if there's an option to run. Otherwise, they surrender as before. But now we roll initiative for both sides. So Carvis will roll his dex for our group. He got a 7. And then the kobolds... we'll just go off of Shadowdark Dex numbers to make it simple. Except I find the kobold. There it is. +2 for them. They're pretty dexterous. So we'll just roll d20 +2. They got a 13. They do go first. So they are going to run. Question is, where are they running to? From 3, we have these kind of wavy doors. I'm pretty sure those are curtains. Oh, they will flee to room 4. Okay. And that is the kobold quarters, where there's 1d4 +6 kobolds sleeping there. And if a fight starts in room 3, the kobolds there will wake up, grab their weapons, and come through the curtain to help in 3 rounds. Okay. Definitely a little tricky situation then. There's no opportunity attacks in Shadowdark, much like plenty of other games in the OSR. I think it's relatively new concept. So if they win initiative and they want to run, they're going to fucking run. We were too slow to stop them. That's what initiative represents, obviously. So we're still kind of recovering from our initial volley of shots, and they just immediately bolt. You know, they were quick on the draw and just like, oh fuck, and get out of there, and they sprint into room 4 through the curtain. And you know, we can hear them kind of shouting. So probably safe to assume that there are more kobolds on the other side of that curtain. So now it goes to our initiative then, and we have to decide how best to deal with this. I think if we had a torch, I would just use that, but we don't. So Wisteria is just going to run over to this curtain real quick and cast Burning Hands on it. It's close range, so it's within 5 feet. The text is a little ambiguous. You spread your fingers with thumbs touching, unleashing a circle of flame that fills a close area around where you stand. Actually, that text is not that ambiguous. I'm probably thinking of... Yeah, no, I mean, it's not that ambiguous, but it's just like, it's a little weird for Burning Hands. Usually you think of it as a cone effect, because it spreads out from your hands forward. But this is in a circle all around you, 5 feet around you. I saw some discussion about it on the subreddit that they rule it as an arc, and they just didn't, like, they reasoned that Kelsey didn't want to bog down the text with introducing like a new term like an arc or a semicircle or something like that. So it's just, I don't know, I think it's kind of a weak argument, and it's more just like, I want it to be an arc. I want it to be a cone, because that's what Burning Hands is. I don't want it to be a circle. But others play it as is. It's a circle all around you, and that can hit allies. I don't know. Anytime you have concepts like that in Theater of the Mind, it gets always a little fuzzy of just like, I'm not near anybody. What are you talking about? I'm not near him. It's like, well, we'll never know, I guess. But anyways, this is pretty simple. We're running near the curtain and casting Burning Hands. So we will cast. We got a 21, easy success. There's no creatures near us, but the curtain lights up in flames. And lights up the room, obviously. Now, that really just buys us time, because we don't know what's on the other side of that curtain. We don't know if it's just a single solitary room, which it is, or if it, you know, extends to a whole other part of the dungeon. We would have no idea. So all that really buys us is time, because we assume the kobolds are not going to leap through the flaming curtain to get to us. Now, there is a question of smoke and stuff like that, but honestly, I don't think a single burning curtain is going to produce that amount of, like, an amount of smoke that will just suffocate anybody. It probably would affect us if we stay in this room. But we also see there's another curtain on the other side of us to room 5. So, you know, I can see that that's an empty chamber, but we wouldn't know exactly what's going to come from there either. So probably best case is just like backing out of this little room and funneling them in this doorway. Yeah, it's probably what we'd do. Door is kind of busted. I mean, I don't think it got blown off its hinges or anything, but it's, the hinges are certainly broken. But we can kind of, I don't think we'd even close it, honestly. We'd probably just leave it open, and I think just, like, bunker up right here. So Peloran sort of in the doorway with his shield up. And then, well, I guess it would be Peloran and Lone, even though Lone doesn't have a shield, and we really should have gotten one. Why didn't I just buy her a fucking shield? Oh, I did buy her a shield. Yeah, she has a shield. What am I talking about? I'm thinking of the old Lone that I had to get a shield for. This one has a shield. So yeah, we both post up with our shields to blockade off this doorway. And Carvis and Wisteria behind us. And we have all our weapons ready. And I would say, if we want to use some other terms, I'd say we have, like, readied actions to strike at anything that comes into view. Alright, so we need to figure out how many kobolds we are dealing with. We know there's 2 at least, and then it's 1d6 plus... No, 1d4 plus 6. Alright, 2. So we have 10. 10 total kobolds. It's quite a bit, for sure, but the bottleneck could help. The problem is they're also going to have ranged weapons, I would imagine. Based on axe and what I recall, it's just like... Well, no, that was for goblins. I don't know if kobolds follow the same... Well, if we look at Shadowdark for kobolds, I really should just bookmark this. I keep losing it. The kobolds just have spears, and they can throw spears. But we know that these kobolds have short bows, possibly, so I think we kind of have to rule that, like, half of them will have bows and half of them will have spears. So the ranged members here, Wisteria and Carvis, are going to have to focus on anyone carrying a bow. That's who they're looking for. Peloran and Lone are focused on anything coming within melee range. Alright. So, how do we want to rule this? Eventually they're going to come into view, right? Eventually the curtain's going to burn away enough for them to, like, charge in, I guess, as a big group. And it's smoky, it's obscured, it's kind of hard to see. You probably want to actually represent that for, like, our ranged people shooting into the smoke as, like, disadvantage. I think you might go that far. Yeah, I mean, I hate to do it to myself, but logically that does seem to make sense. So, eventually we hear, like, a sort of battle charge from the kobolds, a big group of them, and we kind of can see them charging into that room filled with smoke. You know, expecting to find us in the room still, because that's what they were told. And I think there's a moment of confusion there, perhaps, from them. And yeah, I'm going to give myself another round of surprise. Which really is only relevant for the ranged, unless I actually want to move in with the melee people. Well, Peloran could have his javelin ready, I suppose. He could throw his javelin. And Lone could throw a dagger, so I guess everyone will get a chance here. So we're going to try and target as many short bow people as we can. But like I said, it's going to be disadvantage. It's not going to be pleasant. So Wisteria with Magic Missile, this is not going to be advantage this time. Because it's canceled out. Failure. There it goes. So we're still casting it once. we're gonna average 3 hit points across all of them. We'll just make it simple. So she does 1 damage to 1 fucking target. Great. Keep that in mind. I guess we'll throw a javelin at that one. We'll try and focus fire here. Disadvantage. Fail. Harvest shooting his crossbow against the same one. Disadvantage. Well, technically, I guess it would be backstab. But that's just like, he deals an extra weapon die. Doesn't really matter that much. Oh, he actually does land a shot, and it does matter that this is an extra d6. So we will roll... Alright, there you go. Alright, so he definitely kills one. And then Lone can throw a dagger and almost certainly miss. Almost certainly not kill anything. Yeah, she misses. So we throw a bunch of shit into the room. But the smoke really is fucking with us, so it didn't work. Alright, now combat starts properly. So we're going to roll initiative. Dex. Normal. We got a 17. They get a d20 plus 2 on their side. They got a 7, so we going first again. No magic missile for Wisteria. That is a pretty big hit. That was a very stupid maneuver on my part, because now Burning Hands is not going to be useful. And we have nothing. We have a staff. We have no range, so she's basically useless now. Unless she wants to leap over Pelorin and Lone into the room and cast Burning Hands. Which could work. There's no save. And if she lands right in the midst of them and fires it off, that's d6 to everything. Because there's like, what? There's 9 left. So theoretically, she could hit 8 targets. I mean, it depends. I mean, if a player is going to do something like that, and again, in Theater of the Mind, we're not thinking about squares or anything like that. It's everything within 5 feet of you. I think it very well could be just everything takes 1d6 damage. It's kind of insane. I don't think it's a very Wisteria kind of move to make, but honestly pretty effective, especially because we have initiative here. So for her to leap over Pelorin and Lone, unless she like shouts for them to like move as she runs in, I guess you could allow that. I think you actually can, yeah, you can move freely through allies. Very unrealistic. Especially for a Theater of the Mind game. Like, why even put that in there? Seems kind of weird. That you can just phase through allies. But, okay, fine. I can move through allies, so I don't have to make any weird dex check or anything. And she's going to leap into the midst of kobolds. There's no ops or anything. But I think this is going to be a dex check. Because for her to get into the middle of them, she is going to technically have to move through enemies. So we're going to make this a dex check. Probably DC 12. She rolls a 2. Okay, so she kind of stumbles or, you know, she like hesitates of what exactly she's about to do, and so she stops right in front of the group. So she's still going to go ahead with it. She could run back then and waste her turn, but we're in this to win it. So she's going to cast Burning Hands. Definitely not hitting 9 of them, that's for damn sure. If I was going to adjudicate it and be generous, I'd say 4. She'll hit 4 of these for 1d6 damage. And we'll just do 1 blanket roll for all of them. Okay, 2 damage. Shame. But, I mean, that is pretty terrifying for them. Four of them now are near dead from this crazy woman just throwing out flames everywhere. I think the rest of the room is kind of on fire at this point because there's bedding for the kobolds in here. There's a one-legged table, and yeah, so some of that's also catching on fire. So the room is kind of on fire. It's definitely panic-inducing. But now Paloran is going to rush in with his sword, and he's going to try and cleave one of them down. So we'll roll for that. He rolls a 16. He definitely kills one. So more blood spraying across the kobolds' faces. And he roars in triumph. And Lone will get in there as well to do some damage with the longsword. Nope, not quite. And no luck token for her. So one of them's like just panic ducking out of the way. And then Carvis will fire his crossbow again against another one. He also misses, but it's a hail of, fury against these kobolds. Is that worth a morale check? Well, they haven't been I don't think they haven't been reduced to half their numbers. So honestly, I don't think there's quite a morale check just yet. And unfortunately, we only killed 2 of them. So there's still 8 kobolds in the room here, and it's gonna get fucking painful. So we'll take 1 from each, which means we have 4 short bows and 4 melee. And I hate to say it, because I hate to do it, but honestly, I feel like they'd be targeting Wisteria quite a bit here. Because, she's a crazy woman that can throw fire out of her hands. They're probably going to try to bring her down. So I think she's almost certainly going down here. So, yeah, we'll just say all short bows are going for her. And then the 2 melee, or 4 melee are going to split between the 2 melee. So against Wisteria with short bows, they have, yeah, again, like, fucking axe. It's just always hard to parse. What their attack throw is. But thankfully, Shadowdark is quite clear on the matter. That it's just going to be +0 and do 1d4 damage. So, she only has an AC of 10. She has no armor or any kind. So, we'll just roll 4d20 and see what hits. Probably a few. Well, only 1 hit. And unless I roll a 4, she's still up. Alright, 2. She managed to only take 1 arrow to the shoulder. And it hurts like hell, but she's still here. Then the melee. It's also going to be +0. But AC 12 here, so 2d20 against Paloran. That looks good. Yep, he's fine. And against Lone, not so fine. 2 hits. She's got 2 health. She is down faux show. There's no question about it. So, question is, does it matter at all if you go into the deep negatives? Can you go into the negatives? I don't think you can go into the negatives. Which is sort of like Shadow the Weird Wizard or something, where you can go to 0 and that's it, and that's all we care about. I think. Have to look at the specific combat section. Damage, blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it just says 0. I love that there's a section here. Death. A character who perishes is retired from the game. Like, no shit. Yeah, that's a very nice way of putting it, I guess. They're retired. Fucking dead. Alright, so, yeah, Lone is at 0. Which means we are going to get a loyalty check here after that and all that, if she survives. And so we're going to roll our D4 plus con mod for how many rounds she has. Okay, 4. So 4 rounds before she dies unless healed or stabilized. And then it's new round. And according to Shadowdark, you're meant to do chaos mode where you reroll initiative every fucking round, which is yeah, I mean that's just like Axe, so it is very possible for us to get completely fucked here. Roll Dex normal, got a 6 and a d20 plus 2 for them, 12. They all get to go again. That's pretty bad, because now Wisteria has to withstand another 4 shots, and she's almost certainly going down. So we'll roll 4d20. 2 hits. They did roll 2 ones, which is nice, but... oh, I guess we could rule that they shoot the melee dudes, the ones up front. We could roll damage for that. So let's just do that. That's a nice silver lining. All right, so one of them takes 1 damage, but these are all going to have 2 health. So I think they kill 1 and kill 1, yeah. So 2 melee die. So there's 2 melee standing, 4 range standing, and then Wisteria goes to 0. I mean, there's no other way around it. Okay. And she gets 4 rounds as well. So thankfully, our 2 people down have a decent amount of time, because they're going to need it. And technically, you know, well, I mean, it's basically like our party should make a morale check to see if we're going to run. But we're not going to abandon these 2, so we got to stay and fight. So now it's our turn. Pelorin's going to swing his Chorus of Revelation at another one. He hits, he kills, good. That's another melee down. And then Carvis is going to shoot at one of the ranged in the back. Hit for 2 damage, which is not enough to kill. God damn, man. How much health do kobolds have in Shadowdark? 1. Alright, maybe that's fair. Although they can also dodge once per day an attack that would hit them, which makes them really annoying. So I guess we'll stick with just the 3 health. So technically there's still 4 ranged and 1 melee. So now they're at 5. Which technically is half their numbers, so they will make a morale check, and they'll probably fail. But they have down 2 of us. So maybe I give them advantage on it. But Wisteria rolls a d20, nope. And Lone rolls a d20, nope. If they roll a 20, then they just get up. That's the only consequence of that. I don't think there's any penalty to rolling a 1 there. They have 3 rounds left. We're going to roll morale with initiative, or with advantage for the kobolds. They have a -2. Okay, I gave them advantage. They still failed, so they will be running on their turn because they're losing too many of their people. And the room is on fire and filled with smoke and pretty terrible and blah, blah, blah. So now we're going to reroll initiative. Carvis +3, 12. They get a +2, 19. They're going to run. So they're running to 5 and then 6. And there's 2 burly kobolds there. The guards for the king's audience chamber. So, yeah, the king is going to hear about this disturbance. Which is fine, because we're getting the fuck out of here for now. So on our turn, Carvis is going to run over to Wisteria and roll an intellect. We need a 15 here. We failed. Halloran will run over to Lone and roll an intellect. Fail. Wisteria rolls a d20. Nothing. Lone. Nothing. They have 2 rounds left. Harvest rolling another intellect. Fail. Halloran rolling on Lone. Fail. Wisteria rolls a d20. Fail. Lone. Fail. 1 round left. Harvest. d20. Intellect. Fail. Halloran. Critical fail. I don't think that means anything. Wisteria d20. Nothing. Lone d20. Nothing. Technically, they die. Right? I think we just lost 2. Yeah, so Wisteria's immense Burning Hands play was her death. 100% her death. No doubt about it. Yeah, I just want to see, was there like... Yeah, there's not like healer's kit or anything like that. The equipment section in Shadowdark in the core book is extremely small. So I feel like if we go to the player's companion, that might have more. I think I have another supplement that adds loads of gear. PDF reader froze again, of course. Yeah, but I feel like there should be a healer's kit or something that allows you to have advantage on stabilized checks. But really, you should just have a priest with you that can heal, because that would have solved some troubles. Bandages. Yep, using them in an attempt to stabilize grants advantage and lowers the DC to 12. That would have been huge had I looked at this list. Because that can't be too expensive. 6 silver for one of them. Could Carvus have afforded it? Yep, he could have. Well, we could retcon, because I didn't look at the expanded inventory list there. Would I have bought it, though? In all honesty? Probably not, because I thought I was invincible. Now, I said that I wanted to take count of where I died because I didn't have max health, or I didn't go with the option of just taking max health. Wisteria had max health. She rolled the best she could. She had 4. She just did something really stupid and died for it, which makes sense. Lone, however, didn't really do anything that stupid, and definitely did not have max health. For a fighter, she would have had 8. For, like, the mercenary warrior, she would have had 6. And either one, she would have probably survived. And then they both could have made intelligence checks to stabilize Wisteria. But, I mean, I guess that wouldn't have mattered much. Wisteria was fucked. But Lone, then, if she was up, she could also have rolled -2, which, very unlikely, but had we rolled 4 checks -2, there you go, she would have succeeded 3 times. So Lone not having max health cost Wisteria's life. That's a very interesting way to look at it, I think. Really, Wisteria jumping into a pack of kobolds to try and wipe them all out is what cost her life. Also, rolling a 2 on her d6 damage of Burning Hands. Had she succeeded and killed 4 of them with that one shot, they would have immediately rolled morale and probably would have finished the encounter instantly. So that was a big problem. She failed to get in there, and she rolled a 2 on the d6. But that's how it goes. And bottom line is, you don't usually want to rely on dice in situations like this. And I relied on dice a lot. So yeah, Wisteria dead. That's it. We'll take her 5 gold. And Lone died as well, so we get our 50. We get her 55 gold. So really, we go up to 60 gold on Carvis there, and 5 silver. And that is it for those two. So Pelorin and Carvis then are going to quickly retreat before, you know, more kobolds come. And they'll flee out of the temple back to the forest. All in all, like, yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I think an axe, we would have been fucking decimated. Probably. I think if we followed axe rules specifically, it would have been a lot worse. Probably. I don't know, kind of similar. I think kind of similar. We wouldn't have had like the stabilized rolls or anything like that, so I think the outcome would have been probably similar. But I also wouldn't have rushed in and cast Burning Hands, although maybe I would have. I'm pretty sure there is like a Burning Hands equivalent. Let me see. One of these gets Fan of Flames. Yeah, that's what it's called. Would I have rushed in with Fan of Flames in the same way? No, because you have to declare you're casting the spell. That's their whole turn. You can't move. So this is very modern, what I did, of running in and casting Burning Hands. But Fan of Flames might be a little different. Hurl bolts of Syrian Flame in a fan 40 feet long, 20 feet wide, stretching from the caster's hands. So she could have done it where, had I planned it slightly in advance, where she was kind of standing next to Lone and Pelorin in the doorway, and she was like, okay, you know, as soon as we surprise these bastards, I'm going to cast Fan of Flames. And then, theoretically, that would have caught, like, all of them in it. They all have to make blast saving throw, taking D8 or half that. So, in some ways, Fan of Flames is better than Burning Hands, because you can really target it. And 40 feet long fan, 20 feet wide, I mean, that is a big blast. That's some anime shit, compared to Burning Hands, where I just sort of twirl flames around me. But yeah, I feel like Axe, outside of that instance, probably would have been pretty bad. I don't think we would have gotten surprise. I mean, really unlikely to get surprise either way. And then characters there, once they hit 0, would basically be just dead. Yeah. There's not a whole lot to say. Because obviously we're not running like a Shadowdark designed dungeon. And Shadowdark, as we mentioned, has those rules for like balanced encounters. 10 kobolds, not a balanced encounter. Even though kobolds are level 0, so theoretically I can just throw 1,000 kobolds at my party. I'm not quite sure what they're meant to do with that. But I guess if you read level 0 as level 1, then we could have had 4 kobolds. In which case, we certainly wouldn't have died, I don't think. But we're not running Shadowdark rules. We're running an Axe module, and so that was the encounter, and it was winnable. It was very winnable. It's just, I was dumb. So, let's make a new spellcaster that is not so dumb. Actually, I'll be right back. Okay, so we're gonna make a new character to replace Wisteria. And we can get rid of Lone and Wisteria now. And I think for a class, I like the Basilisk Warrior as an option. What the fuck is that from? Cool. But no, I was thinking of just doing Priest. Just straight up Priest. Peloran, you know, he'll eventually get Priest magic, but it would be really nice to have Turn Undead and possibly Cure Light Wounds and stuff. And we'd have another frontline melee and blah, blah, blah. So we'll go with a human priest named Jasmine. Alright, fine. Background of traitor. Now, on hindsight, Harvest has healer as his background. You understand how life and death intertwine. I feel like, I don't know, would you want that to just apply on every stabilize attempts? I wouldn't. I don't know. I don't think that would be that bad of a thought. I don't think that would be that bad of a thought. Advantage on stabilized checks. It's not like game breaking, really. Specifically just for the healer background. Yeah, I don't know. It seems like I should have applied that, and then we probably would have been fine. But it's too late now. We'll keep that in mind in the future. Alright, so, Carvis and Peloran actually do make it back to civilization then, so they do get XP for kills. Or for enemies they defeated. How exactly you want to calculate how many kobolds we defeated is kind of rough. Because so many of them are going to live to fight another day. So we may just go by kills here. And we killed... That one room had 6, we killed 4. And then there were 10 left and we killed 5. So it was 9 plus the 4 from the start, 13. 13 times 5 is 65. Divided by 2. We'll say 64 divided by 2. That's 32 XP. Now the problem is that the system here does not account for being, changing your XP value. So I really wish... I wish this whole thing was customizable. But I don't think that's an option, unfortunately. No. Damn. It's really annoying. I mean, you can put in whatever you want here. I suppose I could put in 32, and I guess we keep track of it that way. But, yeah, eventually that'll run off. But for now, that's good enough. It's the only way we're going to keep track of it. And then we'll always have to look at this level up arrow. Not great. If I was going to run this for a group with these rules, I'd really want to find a way to change that. But whatever. Yeah, so they got that XP. They didn't get any treasure, really. I don't think we even looted the kobolds, because I just didn't feel like they would have much. Kobolds carry 1d6 silver pieces each. The 2 toughest both carry 10 gold pieces in small purses. That's pretty good, but the place is on fire right now, so we kind of left. By the time we come back, someone else, the other kobolds will have looted all that shit. But I think that's where a DM would really want to make a note here. That these 2 burly kobold guards here probably grabbed the 10 gold. Yeah. Anyways, right. So, making this priest, Jasmine, blah, blah, blah. Let's roll our stats the good way. So, wisdom is the spellcasting modifier, so we probably want that to be the highest, because you don't want to lose your spells. Losing magic missile, because I fired into Smoky Room, was pretty dumb. And it's obviously a little weird that like correlates, you know? Like firing your magic missile into a room where you have disadvantage causes you to lose the spell for the day. Or it was more likely to make you lose the spell. It's a little ridiculous, but yeah. Alright, 5d6 for wisdom. Wow. Pretty shitty roll. But it's still a 14, so plus 2. 4d6 then for strength. Pretty solid there. 16 strength. We like that. Plus 3. And 4d6 on con. Not so hot. 11 con. No bonus. 3d6 int. 13. 3d6 dex. Ah, that sucks. Really was hoping for a nice dex or a nice con. I didn't get either. And then 3d6 charisma. 17. Face of the party. Excellent. Gold. 25. Pretty weak. Freya. Blah, blah, blah. Trader. Blah, blah, blah. I think that's all good. Roll HP. 5. Alright. Not a bad roll there. Our talents. +1 to melee attacks. +1 to range attacks. We'll go with melee. And spells. Not too many options here. 6 choices. So we're just going to roll d6s. 2d6. 5, Shield of Faith. And 6, Turn Undead, which we already have. Reroll, reroll, reroll. There. Light. No Cure Wounds. Would you accept a priest in your party with no Cure Wounds? It's such an impactful, insanely useful spell. I think probably the most useful tier 1 spell in the game. So it's rough. Now, to be clear, random spells is not the default at all. The only section that mentions doing random spells is when you want to generate an entire character randomly. I mean, obviously you can have a priest without Cure Wounds. Obviously. Someone could just not pick it. But it seems insane to not pick it, and it seems like I'm deliberately handicapping myself if I don't. And I don't know why I would do that. I don't really have a good reason as to why I would do that. So, yeah, we're going to just take Cure Wounds. I'm pretty sure I've done it before on solo where I didn't pick Cure Wounds because I rolled randomly. But, yeah, Shield of Faith and Cure Wounds. Well, Shield of Faith will cover up our low dex whenever we actually cast it, so I think that's good. We're going to get one more talent roll. And I wish that it just... Yeah, whatever. Okay, 2d6. 4 is +1 to melee or range attacks. Okay, we're going to be very likely to hit stuff. Not so good on the spell casting. But, yeah. Class. Level +1 to melee attacks. And we have 25 gold to spend. So we are definitely looking at leather armor for 10. Yeah. Mace? Probably mace. I would imagine mace. I think we're looking at mace. Or a club, but I'd probably lean towards a mace. We want a shield as always. I could do longsword, actually. Surprisingly, the priest here can use a longsword. But mace is 5 gold, and we don't have that much money, so... That's 15. The shield is also 10, so that's 25. That's it. That's all we get. If I wanted anything else, I'd have to switch down to a club, which is way cheaper, but it's 1d4. So we don't even have a backpack unless someone else wants to loan me money. And I think we probably would loan her money, because we're nice like that and we have a lot. So I'm just going to drop down to 53 and we'll go with the crawling kid. Okay. Alright, and we have our 3. Actually, let's make you the cleric now, and you can use the champion. Perfect. Makes way more sense. So that means we're looking at 5 health, 12 AC, plus 5 on our fucking mace swing for 1d6 damage. Damage not so hot, but a plus 5 at level 1 is juicy. We are gonna most likely hit what we swing at. And with Shield of Faith on, we have a 14 AC, which is better than Pelorin's, so... Yeah, okay. There's our character, and now we can cure wounds. Not great odds on our spellcasting with just plus 2. But it is what it is. Okay. So, technically I needed to roll some random encounters on the way back to town. For Pelorin and Carvis, D6s. 2 of them, I guess, if they get a 1. They did get a 1 close to town, so that would be like a civilized encounter. I mean, we could roll just on the grassland one as well, again. Because Shadowdark doesn't offer an alternative. That would be a stone golem made of glittering gypsum guarding a field. Kind of ridiculous. Whereas if we... I mean, I gotta bring this up here. We gotta bring it up just for comparison, just for usability, all that kind of stuff. If we go to Axe, the Judge's Journal, and look up civilized encounters, civilian, whatever they called it. Hold on, the PDF reader froze for another hour because it loves to do that anytime you don't look at it. So, civilized, technically, they would be without road. So we'd be rolling on this table D20 each time, which is much lower chance than 1 on 1d6 of us avoiding an encounter. But then here's your civilized encounter by terrain type. So we'd be looking at grassland, farm, prairie, and D100 here. Say we rolled an 86 would be a pilgrim. Maybe multiple pilgrims. Makes a lot more sense, a lot more logical and realistic than a stone golem made of glittering gypsum guarding a field. Now, I do agree that if you're wandering off and you're in the wild borderland, countryside, in the grassland, you roll an encounter when you enter a hex, and you get that, then it's like, okay, we're in the wild blue yonder, but we're like right near town. I think Shadowdark probably wouldn't even roll, to be honest, because it's a safe territory. I think you are missing an opportunity for some interesting encounters, role-playing encounters, things like that. But at the same time, a lot of these are also not very interesting. Like, encountering a herd of sheep and stuff is not especially interesting. So, yeah. It is possible that we could have gotten a monster encounter, a dangerous terrain or something, but I think, yeah, it's hard to say. Overall, probably not much reason to roll random encounters outside of the forest here. But if I was gonna, I'd be using this civilized encounter table rather than Shadowdark's grassland table. Alright. So now we recruit Jasmine, and somehow we can tell that she's not just a henchman, she's something special. Sort of weird distinction. Very arbitrary and gamey, but sure, we know that she's special, and so she gets a full share of treasure. And then I think we just go back. I mean, technically I should be tracking. I guess we would spend the night here, and then we would spend money. So, for food and room at the inn, that's 5 silver for the rooms, and then probably another silver each. So 6 silver each, just for us to spend a day back in town and recuperate. So that's 1.8 gold. So down to 52 and 1. That's fine. We're all back. Yeah, we didn't really take any damage or lose anything, so we're good. I'm not keeping track of crossbow bolts because, yeah, I just don't care. I just don't care. Interestingly, I don't think Shadowdark has any alternate rules. No, I mean, it's very much just 20 crossbow bolts, and it just says that's your ammo for your crossbow or whatever. There's no optional rules or anything. Shadow the Weird Wizard includes like 3 different optional rules for how to handle ammunition. Including the resource die that a lot of people like, where from like Black Hack, where you have your ammo and you put like D8 next to it, and then any encounter, anytime you use the ammo after the encounter, you roll that die, you roll a D8, and if it gets a 1 or a 2, it drops down to a D6, and then that keeps going, and then it's a D4, and then eventually if you get a 1 or a 2 on the D4, you're out of ammo. So it hand waves a lot of the specific ammo counts, and it's theoretical that you could go for many, many encounters without running out of ammo, but there is still the possibility of having ammo. And then I think there's another optional rule for that rule, where when you have the D4 and you roll a 1 or a 2 after the encounter, then you have 1 ammo left. You have 1 last arrow. I like the idea of it a lot, but it's also still more effort than just not caring about ammo. And the players that I tried it with still just didn't care, and they'd rather just not keep track of ammo. I guess it is keeping track of ammo for me, though. Every time I roll on the crossbow, it is deducting 1 here. So we have 14 bolts left. There's no rules here for recovering bolts or arrows or anything like that, so I don't know. Again, Shadowdark, very light, very flexible, very hackable game for sure. If I could just incorporate the resource die straight into the character sheet here, that would probably incentivize me to try it, but these character sheets are not very hackable. So, yeah. I don't know. If I was going to DM for a group, which it might get to that. I got some people that might be interested sometime. And I would use Shadowdark for sure, and I'd probably set things up in Foundry, because it is handy for some stuff. Like dice rolling and things like that. Would I have them use the in-game character sheets? I mean, it's so much easier. Everything is contained in Foundry rather than like, here's a fillable PDF, you know, and this way I can see their character sheets and I can see, you know, if they're doing anything incorrectly or something like that. I wish it was more customizable with certain things that I just want to change, that I don't want to run strictly as Shadowdark says. Anyways, so the next day we head off back into the forest, and we're traveling through the forest again, and I don't think we have to search for the place. I mean, maybe you might rule that you have to search for it again, but I think we know where it is. The only thing is I would do a random encounter for the forest. I would do a random encounter check as we walk through the forest to see if something stops us. So we'll do a d6 on a 1. No, we're good. So we make it back to the location, and it's pretty much as we remember. I am going to loot the kobolds at the entrance, though, because that's 4d6 silver pieces. 21 silver. That's 2 gold. So now, I said that whatever you carry out of the dungeon is easy to tally of, like, XP. But not necessarily, because I think it's very easy to just forget about this 21 SP. Now, yes, that is literally only 2 XP split among your party. It's practically nothing. But, yeah, I think still probably the DM should kind of have a running total of everything they grab or anything they leave behind, or, you know, something like that. So the DM can just see, okay, they took this. That's this much XP. So I, as the DM, probably would write that down. But, yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead in the future with DMing and stuff of just, like, telling them the value of treasure. So then we all know, we're all aware, we can all keep track. Alright, so we arrive, and now we don't have a light spell. So now we're actually going to be using torches. And that's a little tricky because no one really wants to give up a hand slot here to carry a torch. Who would give it up? Probably Jasmine, I guess. She's not... I mean, I don't know. Pelorin is in the front, but he doesn't have a great benefit of being in the front. He's got less health. He's got the same AC. Without Shield of Faith, he has lower AC. But he is badass. He's got the Chorus of Revelation, thanks to our old friend Wisteria. So I guess we'll give it to Jasmine, and she'll use the torch. I think, honestly, she holds the torch instead of her mace. She's going to keep her shield up. It's important to stay safe. All right, and Right. So, you know, we look back in and we kind of survey the situation. See if anything is drastically altered or something. And now, as a DM, I kind of have to figure out, okay, what exactly happened in the day since we left. Because we did kill a decent number of kobolds. I guess we're assuming there's no front guard. I wonder if they would have replaced that or not. Yeah, see, that's something I should have figured before while the players were, like, mucking about with making new characters and stuff. But I guess we're going to go ahead with they haven't replaced the front guards. That room that they were in, the guard room, was kind of on fire. So there's going to be a lot of smoke damage in there. I think the corpses will have been picked through, but probably left there because they're just not sure. The quarters where they all sleep is probably still fine. And they probably haven't replaced the curtain, though. And they lost, among that whole group there, they lost 5 plus 4. They lost 9. Of the total 14 that were in those 2 rooms. So yeah, there's only 5 left. I think those 5 are still going to be hanging out in the quarters. And I guess maybe they would be kind of like trying to reset up in the guard room. Yeah, I guess they would. Maybe there's a couple in the guard room still just like... Maybe they brought in some other table from somewhere that they were allowed to have and they're playing dice or something. I don't know. But the door to that room is kind of broken off the hinges a little bit. I think the rest is all calmed down enough. It's clear that we left. So I think everything else is kind of back to normal with the King's Guards and stuff like that. So, I think we're going to approach this broken door stealthily. Or with the intention of stealth. So, Carvis, obviously, advantage. He's got no real problem with that. He rolled a 15, which is fine. But then Paloran rolled an 8, he failed. And Jasmine rolls a 6, she fails. So, we're not a very stealthy group. We didn't send Carvis ahead. We traveled as one pack, and we're not being super quiet. So just as like we kind of hear a little chatter and maybe like dice hitting a table or something, it suddenly stops. And there's a moment there of just silence while both groups are just straining to hear what's going on with the other group. And we're like, you know, we're like here in this corridor at this point. So we have to decide to like just sit here and wait and maybe they'll not notice, or we charge in to unknown situations again and start slaughtering. I think we'd wait. I think we'd just really hold our breath and wait. So I'm going to give everyone another stealth check to see if we can really hold our breath here. So Carvis like barely succeeded. Paloran succeeded. Okay, well then we're fine. So Jasmine's still no good, but 2 of us succeeded, so we just stay incredibly silent and motionless. And eventually the kobolds, oh, just the wind, I guess. And they continue to play. So now, sneaking up to the doorway again, we're going to do another stealth check. Yeah, it's perhaps a little egregious. I agree, but I am generous in that only 2 of them have to succeed for it to count. So we're going to go again, advantage, 13, fine, normal, 5, 4, no, okay. So we fail again as we approach the actual doorway, and now they're certain that someone is approaching. So they shriek, and we hear rapid footsteps kind of moving away from us again. So now the jig is up once more. And now we have to decide, okay, they know we're here. I think we employ the same method we were gonna employ last time, which was kind of barricading this door. So Jasmine is gonna cast Shield of Faith on herself. Success. So now her AC is 14 technically. And she's going to, kind of set the torch up near them against the wall, just kind of lean it against the wall for now, and pull out her mace. And the two are going to post up in the doorway with their shields up. Carvis got his crossbow ready. This time I think it's the same group of kobolds. You said there's like 5 of them. I think the survivors here are much more cautious. I don't think they're going to charge in with a roar to try and fight us in room 3 this time. I think they're going to kind of inch in. And they inch and they inch. And eventually there's going to be line of sight here between someone in the doorway and one of the kobolds like looking. And so there's not going to be a surprise of any kind here. They know that we're in the doorway. We know that they're coming from that side. And it's a little bit of a standoff, I think. But someone's got to make the first move. And I think if they see that Paloran and Jasmine are just like sitting there and they got their shields up in the doorway and they're holding melee weapons and stuff, I think one of them with the short bow is going to try and take a pot shot. So we'll target Jasmine with this shot, and this is +0. Okay, fails. So the arrow just plinks harmlessly off her shield, or off the wall next to her or something. So now Carvis is seeing that, okay, if they're going to do that, then he's going to fucking do that. So he'll move to an angle where he might be able to see one. And one will poke their heads out. And he'll take a shot as well. 8, so he also misses. And Paloran's getting a little anxious, because it's like, okay, well, there's probably more of them, and this is just buying them time to, like, send for more help, you know? And it's true, I think probably one or two of the kobolds is thinking that if they run across the room quickly, they might make it and shout for the king and the guards and stuff. So if we keep doing this a couple more rounds, that is what's going to happen. So I think Paloran is planning to just launch an offensive and just push in. Again, I don't think there's any element of surprise here, but this is going to go... We should be going by initiative, so let's roll initiative for our side. Fucking 5, and they got 11. So one of them is going to take another shot at Jasmine. 15, that is a hit. So this is going to hurt now for a d4. 3 damage. So an arrow sinks into her arm or something like that, past the shield. And they all chitter excitedly. And so now Paloran and Jasmine, on our side's initiative, they're both going to rush in. And Carvis is going to be... Technically, his weapon is not loaded, and he has to give up his move to reload it. So, I guess he's just going to pull out a dagger and throw it while running into the room with them. So no surprise or anything, no advantage here. It's just we're going to close in quickly and try and butcher a few of them. So Chorus of Revelation from Paloran. That is a hit for 9 damage, so we definitely cleave right through one. The blade ringing through the air. His blood paints the wall and the kobolds and us. Jasmine is also going to swing her mace at the same time. 20 for 3 damage. That is also a kill. She bludgeons in one of the kobold's skulls. Their eyes bulge out and brain matter paints the floor. And then Carvis will throw a dagger at another one of the kobolds. Miss. Goes right over their heads in the flurry of activity. Alright, so then a new round, new initiative. Dex 10, and they got 12. 14, actually. So, they go first again. There's now 2 of them. 3 of them. We only killed 2, so there's 3 left. Still not going to roll morale, I guess. But we'll say that 2 are melee and 1 has a short bow still. So 1 attack against Pelorin is a 12. That is a hit for D6 damage. 2. And 1 against Jasmine. Critical fail, so that's nothing. And then a short bow shot against Carvis, I guess. D20 is 15. That's a hit for D4 damage. 1. Alright, quite risky, and we're all pretty low, so we really need to end this now. So Pelorin will swing again against one of these stupid spearmen. 2 damage only. He rolled as low as possible. Jasmine will swing against a different one. She misses. She rolled a fucking 2. So, nothing against him. And now Carvis will pull out his crossbow, reload it, and fire it at the archer back there. 18 for 3 damage. That kills him. So now there's 2 of the 5 left. They're going to roll morale with a -2, I think we're saying. So they definitely failed. So they're going to either surrender or flee. They can't really flee because we're barricading the path here. So they're probably going to surrender on their turn, but we will roll initiative. 7 for Carvis. He's really been rolling phenomenally poor initiative every single round, whereas they got a 10. So they'll surrender and they'll throw down their arms. And I declare no quarter. That actually misses. Although, you probably roll initiative. And actually, they don't have a shield anymore, so... depending on how you want to adjudicate that. Probably it's just like... You have a vulnerable opponent here. There probably wouldn't even be a roll. Honestly, yeah, if the player just said, okay, I kill him, then, okay, you just kill him. Yes, I am covering up for my poor roll. I know. But really, yeah, I would say there's no roll there, and we just butcher the last few kobolds. Maybe Jasmine hesitates a little bit killing a defenseless target, especially because we allowed another kobold to surrender. But I'm sick of these little bastards, and we're all injured, and we don't trust them, so we're just butchering them. No more Mr. Nice Paladin. Alright, combat over. So we killed another 5 kobolds for whatever good that does us. We'll loot them all. And I guess we'll search the room while Jasmine patches us all up. So we'll take a little bit of time here. So she's going to cast Cure Wounds on herself first. Success, barely. Jesus. Okay, she rolled 6, so she's back at full. And then she's going to cast it on Pelorin. Failure. That's it. That's all we get out of it. So, like I said, I do allow it to be cast even if it fails, but that's it. And I guess technically it wouldn't. Yeah, okay, it healed him to full. But Carvis still going to be a little injured. She's just like, sorry, man, I'm out. That's all I got in the tank. So while that's going on, we're searching the guard room and stuff. And I guess we'll peek into the quarters to make sure there's nothing else. We see it's just sleeping quarters. There's a dozen rough beds of rags and refuse formed in a checkerboard pattern along the room's length. Blah, blah, blah. Scattered amongst the kobolds' beddings are a total of 57 copper, 23 silver, 10 gold pieces. Hidden long ago in a small crack in the southern wall is a ruby. Finding the ruby requires a successful proficiency throw to detect secret doors. Now, here we uncover our first hidden treasure, and we look at then the sort of difference in how Axe and some old school games do it, and how the new school general OSR philosophy is. Well, the really new school is just like roll a perception. No, you find it. You get treasure. You roll the perception well. The OSR mentality would be that the players would have to describe to the DM where they're looking. And the players would not know that there's a small crack in the southern wall. Right? Unless the DM says, also there's a small crack in the southern wall. And by saying it, they draw attention to it. And thus, it's much more obvious for the players to, like, say, hey, I check out that small crack in the southern wall. So, I don't know if the players are just expected to say, like, hey, we're gonna search all the walls and stuff, too. We're gonna search this room top to bottom, every inch of it. Maybe that's what they say, and you spend 10 minutes doing so, and you get a random encounter check. I guess that's what you say, like, when they say, we search the whole room. It's like, okay, fine, you know. In that case, you don't have to say where you're searching, because the where is the entire room. You're spending a bunch of time searching the whole room. And the important part of that is time, your torch timer going down by 10 minutes, and the random encounter check possibly happening. That's the consequence of spending the effort and the action to search a whole room, in which you might find absolutely nothing. And I think this is the actual old school way as well. It's just the old school way would be that by doing so, you also have to roll a die to see if you find a secret door or a secret treasure. You know, you have to succeed on a roll then as well. So it's like an additional thing. Whereas the OSR mentality, I think, is more just like if they're searching, and they're searching either specifically in a specific location where there's likely to be something, or they're searching generally and spending the time to do so, they should just find it. I don't think that's true across all OSR games, because I'm pretty sure, like, games that are very much a retro clone of stuff like that also has the role. And you can see here, obviously, Axe says you need a proficiency throw to detect secret doors. But Shadowdark, definitely more newer age here, where I would say that if they're going to take the time to search the room, then I would just let them find the ruby. Now that's a lot. I mean, 250 gold piece ruby is quite a bit. But this is really their first piece of treasure, and they have done some effort to get here, and they would have to declare that they're searching the whole room. And keep in mind, I, as the DM, know that the ruby is there, and I would specifically want to search this room. Whereas they could also spend 10 minutes searching the guard room, in which case they'd find nothing, and just waste 10 minutes. And that's an important thing, is because I know when I DM for my family, anytime they say, like, oh, we're going to search the whole room, they basically, like, expect to find something. And they're very disappointed if I say, yeah, there's nothing really here. But if every room has treasure, and every time you search there's treasure, it creates a very unrealistic world, and just unrealistic expectations. Not that you shouldn't search every room, though, because I think otherwise you'd really have no way of knowing or assuming that there is a ruby hidden in this room. I just think this room is probably more likely for players to search, because this is their quarters. And, you know, there's a whole bunch of other coins here and things like that. So it'd probably be a room you're more likely to search extensively. So I guess let's do that. And I just wish there was a way to count down my timer here a little better. There's no, yeah. There's nothing. So it says 60 minutes remaining because time never passes ever. There was a little module when I first fired up this thing that said like, hey, torch timer. And I just closed out of it because I didn't need a torch timer. Now I have no idea where that is. And I have no idea how to bring it up. So that's good. It's just gone. It's just gone. I'm sure it's somewhere, somehow, somewhere. I have no idea. I mean, it's supposed to be... Yeah, I don't know. You can toggle a light source, but that's about it, and I have no idea how to bring that back up. I guess it doesn't really matter. We don't care that much, and if I was DMing this, I don't know. I guess it's like, what do other OSR games do? Like, what do you do for tracking how long your torch lasts? I think a DM is keeping pretty clear count of like turns a lot of the time. The OSR is typically very concerned about tracking time. So I think you're just tracking everything by 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, and I am bad at that, and I have not been doing that. Because technically it was like, I don't know, 10 minutes to get from here to here seems insane. Absolutely insane. So it's like, I can't even really fathom doing so. It seems like such a glacial pace of movement, especially because we've already been here. So technically this did count as explored, but we were sneaking now, so I don't know. And then that fight, that didn't take 10 minutes. That took like 20 seconds. So I don't know if any time as far as turns, but a turn must have passed since we arrived, right? Or maybe one turn has passed. And so then I guess, and we did a fight, so we probably should do a random encounter check here of a D6. Nothing. And then we're going to search this room top to bottom. So that's another D6 encounter check. We're good. And we get a whole bunch of shit out of this. 57 copper, 23 silver, 10 gold. 23 silver and 10 gold. I'm just giving it all to Carvis for now. This wouldn't happen in a real game, I'm sure. And then we find the ruby. So I guess we'll give it to Jasmine. And so we'd add a gem, and it's worth 10 gold. And it's a ruby. Look at that. Look how handy that is. Boom. Nice. Oh, it's worth way more than that. Sorry. Why did I put 10 gold? No, don't sell it. It's worth 250 gold. Alright, so that, searching that room netted us a total of 262 XP. Which is pretty nice. I mean, you have to divide that amongst the three of us. So it's not like a shocking amount. But yeah, I mean, that's more than we've made up to this point. So that's all good. Okay. Then we know that there's another curtain over there. We have no idea what's beyond it. But I think it's time that we poke our heads through. With Paloran leading. And Jasmine obviously holding the torch again instead of her mace. Pretty sure there's rules for, like, if you drop a torch because you're, like, switching weapons or something. So, again, you're meant to, like, be attacking the darkness. Yeah, dropping a torch or lantern might extinguish or break it. I think that would be kind of slim odds, but yeah, I'd probably roll a d6 anytime someone says they're dropping a torch, and if it's a 1, then it goes out or something. I'm not too big on remembering to attack their lights and stuff. Because technically they should have been in darkness in that third room there. Because she put her torch up against the wall here, and then she charged in. Like, there wouldn't be any light, really, in this room. So, yeah, I'm just bad at remembering darkness and light and all that, and keeping track of that. It's just like one more thing that I usually don't have to worry about or think about that much. But Shadowdark really emphasizes it. Alright, anyways, we're stepping into room 5 here. 20 foot wide, 30 foot long antechamber, currently empty except for some desiccated rat skins and a smashed clay bowl. There's no way they didn't hear the battle that just occurred, right? I mean, Paloran, whenever he's fighting, he's like roaring in victory with the chorus of revelation. So I think we follow this here, where if they think they may soon be under attack, they coat the floor between 5 and 6 with oil. When intruders approach, they will topple the braziers to alight the oil, then flee into 9. They're always considered to be actively watching the area. So they definitely see us enter room number 5. And so they go to room 9, which is over here. Sort of a weird arrangement. I'm not exactly sure where they're standing. But they definitely see us, and I guess we roll initiative to see if they topple the braziers before we get to them. So, Harvest rolls Dex 17 finally, and a 6. Okay, so we notice them first, and we see them I'd say that we see them like about to topple over braziers. They're standing next to some braziers, and they got like their hands on them. You really want to like forewarn player. You want to telegraph stuff as often as you can, because it just helps players make informed decisions about stuff. So we know that they're about to, from the looks of it, push over the braziers. And then I'd also probably say that the floor between you and them looks slick. It looks wet. What exactly it's wet with, who knows? Alright, but we get to go first. So Carvis, I guess, is just going to immediately fire a crossbow bolt at one of them. Why wouldn't he? He rolled a 17, 3 damage. That does not kill them. They have 4 health. These guys are burly. So it hits him like right in the ribs or something. Like a pretty devastating shot, but the guy's still standing. Little kobold still standing. Paloran will charge across. Now, technically, there's no running here. Unless you say that this is a far distance and he has to move twice. But there's no, like, run action that triples your move or something like that. But I would say he has to succeed on a Dex check of DC 12 to not slip on the oil. That's what I'm ruling, and that's what's happening right now. Dex check. 13. Barely. So he stumbles just a little bit, but he makes it across and gets to the other side. And he'll go up to the other burly kobold and swing the Chorus of Revelation. Missing wildly, but he'll use luck to re-roll. 13 is going to be a hit for 6 damage. Kill, he gets his luck token back. That's a powerful ability for a melee combatant. Against these little weenies that pretty much always die in one hit. And then I guess Jasmine will... if she can swap... well, yeah, she'll... Fuck. If the DM allows it, I suppose. If she can move across, drop the torch on the other side of the oil, and then grab her mace and swing with it. If she can do all that in one turn. And I would say, yeah, I guess, but obviously we all know what's going to happen if she rolls a 1 when she drops the torch. Like, it's going to light up the oil big time. And, you know, obviously burn up the torch and everything, and it'll all be... I don't know, they might take damage. We'll see. So she's going to roll her dex to see if she gets across the oil with a lit torch in hand. This is going to be great. 14. She succeeds. This is, again, a very dumb move that I think a DM would have... that was sufficient telegraphing, probably. But maybe the player wouldn't realize that it's a flammable substance. Maybe you just think it's... I don't know, butter. Who knows? But she made it across. She's going to drop the torch, so we roll a d6. It's a 3, so it just stays lit nearby and illuminates the room. She pulls out the mace and swings at the injured guy. 12 is enough, and 1 damage is enough because the crossbow did 3. So barely just smacks him across the face, and he goes down. Whew. Okay, that was good. Those dex checks were really lucky, especially that second one. Could have gone a lot worse, and would have been a lot different had they won initiative. Because then this whole corridor here would have lit up in flames, and they would have rushed off to the king and warned him about all that, and blah, blah, blah. But we are okay. So these guys actually grabbed the 10 gold pieces that the others had. So they each have 10 gold on them. So we'll add another 20. Boom. We're getting big money, baby. So now we're here. We have a door to our left and a curtain to our right. Door is perhaps special. And obviously I know the king is in there. But maybe we check out the curtain rooms first, because like I said, I like to go in order if at all possible. So we'll go into 7. The frescoes on either end of this 20-foot wide, 40-foot long room suggest it was once dedicated to the most carnal of purposes. The fresco on the north wall depicts a bloody and decadent orgy. The fresco on the southern wall depicts various couples engaged in a dozen different erotic acts. 12 acts depicted are known as the 12 erotic arts of Nazgûl. They are prescribed by the Temple of Iana because they are feared to be so pleasurable as to instantly debauch anyone who experiences them. Both frescoes are painted in lurid colors that remain shockingly vivid despite the passage of years. Well, this is quite the unholy room. Paloran is not pleased to be in here. So we will move straight on to this other curtain. And he's got his blood up now. He's a little upset. An L-shaped room, 20 feet wide, 60 feet long, with a 30-foot long leg extending westward from the southern wall. It was once a relaxation and meditation lounge. A set of 10 chair-sized stone basins caked with very ancient dried blood line the south wall. Okay, and you know, I can't, like, all these kind of rooms that just have like little features like that, those often get players to like just spend 20 minutes investigating, you know, trying to figure it all out. And really, you know, obviously we know that that leads to nothing. The DM knows that it leads to nothing and it's no purpose, but spending time does have consequences, and you'd have to spend, you know, do another random encounter check. Yeah. Yeah. Which, speaking of, by and large, I would probably use the underclock. And I feel like I'm pretty certain the underclock video where I used it as part of a dungeon, I think it was, I was doing Hole in the Oak, and I didn't ever upload that. But okay, so the underclock is from a blog, Goblin Punch. And it's an alternative to just rolling a d6 every so often and getting a 1 is a random encounter. Okay, so this is an alternative that's meant to build up more suspense and pressure to players rather than just, you could search, you know, 30 rooms and not get a random encounter, or you could search 30 rooms and get 30 random encounters. Like, it's just very random. And it's fine. I mean, it works. It has worked for decades, but there are alternatives. So the underclock is a d20, and it is publicly visible to the players. That is an important part of it. And essentially, wherever you would do a normal random encounter check, meaning that anytime you would search, anytime you'd make a bunch of noise, anytime, specifically here for the underclock, it's anytime you'd explore a new room, including a long hallway, or whenever you'd move through 3 already explored rooms. So any passage of time longer than, like, you know, a minute or something like that, or making loud noises, you are going to roll a d6, and you subtract that from the d20, and that d20 ticks down very publicly, so the group knows, and they're aware of how close the encounter is. And if you get a 6 on the d6 roll, you roll it again. It explodes. And if the underclock ever drops below 0, then you get a random encounter. You don't roll for the odds of a random encounter, you roll a random encounter. It occurs. And so the players know when it's getting close to that. That's an important part of the suspense aspect. If it goes to 0 exactly, however, the number resets up to 3. And if it ever is at 3 exactly, whether because it went to 0 and bounced back up to 3, or it just ends up on 3, regardless, then you do what he calls a shadowing event. This is like an omen. This is a basically, you would roll a random encounter that you're gonna have, and you'd give some sort of forewarning, some sort of telegraph about what the encounter is gonna be. You know, this could be like animal droppings if it's a creature of some kind, or bones, or you hear, you know, footsteps, something like that, forewarning that an encounter is very imminent and what it might consist of. There are other rules for the underclock, you know, to flesh it out a little bit more, but this is that's the core concept. So the other rules involve resting in a dungeon, which does involve multiple rolls on the underclock, unless you're resting in a secret room that no one else knows about. but usually it's going to be 2 or 3 rolls on the underclock for just resting in the dungeon. And every time you rest in a dungeon, you increase the size of the underclock die from a D6 to a D8 to a D10, D12, D20. So if you're in a mega dungeon for an extended amount of time, you know, eventually you're just rolling massive amounts because, you know, you become a very well-known entity within the dungeon. And then every night you spend sleeping outside of the dungeon, you decrease the underworld die by 1 size. Then there's also treasure. This seems like an entirely different system that I'm not sure why it's really included here. But, you know, he says that every time the players exit the dungeon to go outside, the biggest treasure pile in the dungeon loses 20% of its value, stolen away by agents of the underworld. Again, I feel like it has nothing to do with the underclock at all, so I'm not sure why it's really here. That's almost like a different house rule that the DM has to just encourage players to stay in the dungeon more. But I don't see what that has to do with your random encounter system. He also has other rules for like torches for some reason. The maximum underclock value is reduced by 1 for every point of encumbrance held by any member of the party. Depending on what sort of encumbrance rules you're using, I don't know what this is written for. Obviously, that's not meant to be like for axe and every point of every stone that your party has. That would be ridiculous. I guess maybe, I don't know. Where are the fucking Shadowdark rules for going over your max capacity of slots? There's gotta be rules for that, right? I never saw it, but it's gotta exist. So then maybe if people go over their limits, there's some other penalty, and the underclock die, the D20, gets lowered to a 19, 18, 17, so on and so forth. I think that's kind of an interesting concept. I just need to know what the penalty is for going over your limit. If you even can. Like, maybe you can't. Like, maybe you just strictly cannot in Shadowdark. Because it's our... I mean, I think that's kind of lame. Like, I'm sure there's a house rule somewhere. Like, not in this book, obviously. Yeah, there's definitely no rules in this book for going over your limit. Over encumbered. Okay, there's a lot of different options here that people have come up with. Some just say no. No way, you cannot carry past that. That's against the idea of Shadowdark. Blah, blah, blah. I think that's lame, though. I think everything should be considered. And I like having more rules for edge cases, I guess. So the top comment here says half speed. Half movement speed, which means twice as much torch being burned and twice as many random encounters. And possibly everything physical at disadvantage. I think that's reasonable. I think that's probably reasonable. Like all your strength dex checks done at disadvantage. Another person, second top comment, says disadvantage on all rolls. Yeah, okay. I don't know how it really affects your intellect too much or your charisma, but you know, okay, similar. And then another person kind of goes one step further to actually put in an actual limit, and that's basically what they can carry in their hands. So they have to give up hand, like they can't carry anything else in their hands other than the loot or whatever. And yeah, I think that's a pretty good alternative. The one that I was leaning toward was like, okay, you can carry more than that, up to a number of slots equal to your strength mod. Because the normal rule is gear slots equal to your strength. So this would be an over encumbrance equal to your strength mod. But if you're over encumbered, you get disadvantage on physical stuff and half speed. Yeah, I think that's probably fair enough. What the fuck were we talking? Oh yeah, we were talking about underclock. Right. So for every point over the of encumbrance, then underclock value reduced by 1. I think that's all reasonable. I like all that. And underclock replaces regular duration of spells. 30 minutes equals 3 exploration turns equals 10 points on the underclock. Okay, that's interesting. That seems wildly variable. I sort of get the intent. I don't know where you arrived at the number 10 exactly. But okay, yeah, so 6 turns, 1 hour is 20 points on the clock. So I guess there you go. So instead of doing real-time torches or something, you could say, okay, your torch lasts for 20 points on the underclock. And so that's very variable because of the exploding die and stuff. But assuming he actually has math there, it takes an average of 5.9 underclock rolls to generate an encounter. There is a 0.3% chance of the clock generating an encounter in a single roll, a series of exploding d6s. This is roughly comparable to the old 1 in 6 encounter chance every 10 minutes. So yeah, you're going to get through like 6 rooms. If you just are going through each room and not searching, you'll get through 6 rooms on average or so before you have an encounter. And so I guess, yeah, you could say the torch is going to last until underclock, 20 points on the underclock. We have some other stuff, because I think 10 rounds is meant to be an hour in this game. Shield of Faith lasts for 5 rounds, so half an hour. So you could say Shield of Faith will last for 10 points on the underclock. It's kind of interesting. I didn't really work with that at all when I've done the underclock, because I didn't think about it too much, but it is an interesting alternative to just think of it that way, because the underclock is so... I mean, I have DM'd with it. I think like 1 session or 2. It is very much a focal point. Like, the DM is very aware of the underclock. The players especially are aware of the underclock. Even my clueless players were like, okay, we see the number, we know what's happening, blah, blah, blah. So I like the underclock idea quite a bit. And if I was going to DM Shadowdark for anybody in the future, I think that's what I'd go with. I don't know if there's a... I don't think there's a module for it, but it would be kind of nice if there was. I don't know how hard it would be to program just a little tracker, a D20 or something, or just, I don't know. The reason I'd want it in Foundry is so that everyone can see it. I don't know how else I would do that, really, but there's probably some sort of module that allows something similar. But anyways, yeah, so the underclock. I think it's a good concept. What were we talking about? How did we get on this tangent? Oh, right, yeah, because we were talking about all these little things, little details in rooms that players are like, oh, well, there's these 10 stone basins caked with dried blood. We gotta investigate. Maybe we gotta give it our blood. Maybe that'll give us superpowers. I'm gonna cut up my hand and give it blood. I'm gonna give it 8 pints of blood. You know, maybe not that extreme, but players often very interested in every little detail, because honestly, you never know. Really, I mean, you never know what's going to be of interest and what's not. So, typically in the OSR, it's just generally better to leave everything alone if possible. Anything that looks out of place, just leave it the fuck alone. It's usually good advice, but it's also kind of boring advice. But yeah. And so then we would see another door here leading that way, and I think we double back then. We got too many doors now to worry about. This dungeon's getting tricky to map. And mapping in Shadowdark, I don't think it's even mentioned in the book as part of as being like a rule. Obviously, I wouldn't expect it to. But in Axe, you actually have to designate a character to be the mapper. And they have to have their hands free and are, like, vulnerable as long as they're mapping out the dungeon for you. It's very mechanical and realistic. I think it's kind of fascinating, but for a game like Shadowdark, yeah, that does not mesh too well with, I think, the design intent of just kind of fast and fluid dungeon fun. So, yeah, I probably wouldn't bother. Instead, what I do for my players now is I'll have the map here, and then I'll use this, I'll use simple fog here, and I'll just put, hold on if I can. I don't know why it's not letting me draw with this shit. Okay, just get out of here. I just want to draw. Okay, it won't let me draw on this map. That's really annoying. No, I can't draw anything on this map. Okay, well, normally you can just draw... I don't know why it's not working here, but you can draw a fog, which will... It'll be like a layer that just covers up the map in black. And then I don't let them move a token through because, you know, my family, they're all doing pencil and paper, you know. I just have a little monitor on the table that I can show the map, and then as they go into a room or something, I just reveal that section of the map so then they can see. And they don't have to actually map it out themselves or anything. Everyone's clear about, like, the dimensions of the room and where doors are and stuff. And it just saves a lot of hassle now compared to one player, like, struggling to follow my descriptions and try and map it out and try and follow their own reading, you know, writing and stuff. And it's just a lot better, a lot easier just to have the map there. Yeah. So, okay, I think we're going to leave it off here. Next time we will head into the King's Room there, which will be interesting. You can see just how slow, how much time it takes to go through a dungeon. I know part of that is me always yapping and going on tangents and stuff, but really, dungeon crawling is a very slow process. And this is a big dungeon. This is meant to be like a slew of sessions. Because we've gone through now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rooms. And half of those were basically empty. And I'm not even rolling that many random encounters. Like, we should be rolling a lot more than I am. But just like in the interest of getting through the dungeon, we're just kind of going through rooms. It's very slow. You know, it's fights, you get injured, you leave the dungeon for a while, and then you got to come back, and then there's still more fights, and things have moved and shifted, and if you go long enough, eventually stuff starts repopulating. Yeah, and this is just kobolds. Wait till we get to like the tougher shit. It's a long process, but this is how it's done. And hopefully we can get some more treasure. I think if we can beat the king and get into his vault and stuff, probably get gobs of treasure there, I would imagine. The king's treasure. 10 weeks of moldy food, 6 jars full of water, 6 jars with weak beer, 7 bottles of wine gone to vinegar, all worthless. Scattered amongst the worthless goods are 1,000 copper pieces, 10 rolls of red-dyed cloth, 14 bone fetishes, red gloss porcelain vase depicting the city of Aura, 2 agates, and 7 opalinian tapestries with abstract, colorful patterns. Hiding amongst the sacks is Urza's pet spitting cobra, Imoosh. Characters do not examine the pile of sacks carefully. They'll have a -3 penalty on their surprise rolls when encountering Imoosh. And then you can just poison you and you have to save or die. Excellent. So let's see. 1,000 copper is 100 silver, which is 10 gold. So that's 10 gold in coins. The red-dyed cloth, perfect value, it would be 100 gold. 14 bone fetishes, perfect value again. That's like, what, 360 or something like that. The vase is 700 gold. The agates, 50 gold. And the tapestries, 7 of them. So that's 140 gold. So that's quite a bit of gold if we can carry it all out and sell it all. And we are near the fort, the marketplace there. So us probably can sell it all for pretty decent value, I would imagine. But you get XP you get the XP for how much it's worth perfectly, not for how much you sell it for. So XP wise, I mean, that's quite a bit. Especially a 700 gold piece vase. And the 360 gold bone fetishes. I mean, that's over 1,000 gold in value. Plus, 110 or something. So, I mean, yeah, we're probably looking just for the treasure vault, like 400 XP for our 3 characters. It's not bad. Alright, anyways, yeah, I enough yapping, I gotta go. So, my name is Mang. This has been Solo Roll Mang with Shadowdark. And I'll see you fine folks in the next part.